What if the person you trusted as a spiritual guide turned out to be the reason you lost yourself? Today's guest has survived more than most will ever. In his life and inside the Love Has Won cult, as the so called Father God, a fatal car crash, stage 4 cancer, addiction, and the kind of trauma that leaves scars on the soul. You've seen glimpses of a story on Dateline, HBO, and Vice, but today he's telling the unfiltered truth. This isn't about escaping the cult, it's about reclaiming your identity, rebuilding your life, and finding real faith after it's been used against you. So please let us welcome Andrew Ryan Profaci.
Profaci.
Did I say that right?
Profaci, yes. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I'm looking forward to putting together a great show. Thank you, Tiffany, for giving me this platform to speak. And thank you to your audience for being here with us. I hope to pour out my heart, my soul, my truth, and I hope you guys enjoy your time with us.
This is going to be very interesting. So I just have to know, what were you searching for? Were you in a dark place, or what led you to the Love Has Won?
Yeah. I don't know if you'd say I was in a dark place. I was really coming from one. I had just beaten addiction. I was in a relatively good place in my life, but I was seeking truth. I was, into conspiracy theories. I had gotten into spirituality, and I had some spiritual experiences, if you will, that completely crashed my worldview. Things that just seemed impossible. I couldn't believe they were happening to me, and it just left me looking for explanations. I found myself increasingly further away from the people in my life, family members and friends who didn't share the same interests. And I went looking for people or an environment where I felt that I fit in better. And I found that in the chat room that I'd come across, which was being run by Amy Carlson and the Love Has Won team at the time. And that's how I ended up finding them. Nobody ever goes looking for a cult with the idea of like, hey, yeah, we're a cult, we're gonna ruin your life, please join us. It wasn't like that. It was love bombing. It was light and love. But really what was on the inside was control and manipulation wrapped in that light and love. And while I didn't go seeking that specifically, I thought I had found people who shared my beliefs and who would understand me and the experiences I was having. And I found something, unfortunately, completely different.
I think anyone can identify with some of what you said. We all want to be accepted.
Yeah.
We want to be part of a community. We want to be surrounded by people who think like us.
Absolutely.
So what exactly was it that drew you to them?
Good question. And just to touch on what you said, you're right. And while my story is about cults, really the intention is to connect with everybody, because everybody has found themselves in a place where maybe they felt like they were being pulled into, whether it be a job or a relationship. And, you feel like you're maybe not being your completely authentic self just for the sake of fitting in. And that's more of a universal thing that I speak to in my book and hope to connect with the readers in that regard. And I just wanted to mention that, yeah, so it was just a timing. I had fallen across them or came across them in my searches every day online. I was in a place where I was reading as much information as I could on spirituality, some conspiracy theories, but I had kind of started to move beyond that because they were so hollow. And what can you do? Whether you know the truth of a conspiracy theory or not, you can't prove it. There's nothing you can do. But spirituality spoke to me becoming a better person. And that's something that I knew I needed. And when I came across these people, they really had answers for me. And their chat room was great. It appealed to me because it was Amy, or Mother God as she called herself, living in a house with 5 or 6 other men who were working with her, running their websites, sharing these articles and this message of spirituality, helping the world to awaken. And through these inexplicable spiritual experiences that I had that completely shattered my worldview, I felt they had the answers for me. And I felt drawn to joining them because it just felt like that's where I was being led in the moment. I had been let go from my job. I had unemployment coming, so I had money coming in and I had the freedom to go in any direction I wanted to. And I just felt pulled towards them. I felt led there and it felt right. And I followed my instinct. I tried not to let the fear control me and drive me in a different direction. And I followed and I joined. And I tell everybody it's funny. I took a plane from Tennessee to Denver, a 5.5 hour taxi ride south into Crestone, Colorado. And when I got there, I walked in the house at 5 a.m. and the first thought that hit my mind was, oh no, I made a terrible, terrible mistake. The house was dirty. It was a mess. The dishes were piled up in the sink. It looked like a bomb had gone off in the living room. Nobody had cleaned in weeks. And Amy was sitting there in a chair, completely in another world. She was unable to speak. She had been tripping for 36 hours. She was heavily intoxicated, literally drooling from her mouth, unable to speak, completely incoherent. Archangel Michael, as they call him, Michael that you've seen in the documentaries, was holding her up in her chair so she wouldn't fall out. And I remember looking at her. She couldn't even raise her eyes to look at me. She just kind of let out a muffled giggle. And then he took her to bed and she passed out for the night. I sat there that morning watching the sunrise thinking, oh my God, what do I do? That was my
Right.
intro.
Oh my. So, I mean, you got to meet her day one because, as I told you before we got on, I ended up watching the Dr. Phil show that had this. And
Mhm.
some people said like they had to go through like a waiting period before they could meet her.
Yeah, it had turned into something that was completely unrecognizable for me and for the people who were there when I was there. This is 2014, 2015. So, my book, The War on Love, is called The Origin Story of Love Has Won and the Rise of Mother God, because it was towards the beginning before these rules, these militant rules came into place, and, this separation between Amy and her followers. And, I feel partly responsible because I felt like they probably wanted to make sure another Andrew never happened again, because I spent a lot of my time trying to dismantle the team while I was there, something we'll get into. But no, when I was there, I was instantly put the first day I was put right next to Mother God. She made a space for me next to her. She wanted me to be her right hand for all things. And it was within a day or two after joining, I thought I'd be just a marketing guy in the background. That's what I do, helping the websites to grow and take them to another level, which I did. But on my second or third day there, she took me into the bedroom and had a solemn conversation with me and told me that I was the next Father God, that it was my destiny to bring this consciousness into the planet in a way that has never been brought before, and completely hit me like a train wreck. I mean, it was terrible. I was freaking out, scared. I had no idea what to do. So she brought me to her inner circle right away, and we were an item. We were a couple. We were partners, extremely close. I mean, best friends even for 9 months to a year. And we were very, very close. So no, we weren't separated at all. We had become very best friends for a good year.
Now, she's claimed to have like embodied Marilyn Monroe. She says that she remembers being crucified on the cross when she was Jesus, that Robin Williams has come to her
Oh yeah.
after death.
I was there the day
How
he showed up. Yep.
uh, how do you accept that?
Great question. You don't, and that's one of the things about the control mechanisms. They become baked into the environment. You find yourself deeper than you ever meant to be, and it's almost too late before you realize it. And you're surrounded by 6 or 7 people who follow this belief system and believe. And who wants to put the target on their back and be the one person constantly saying every day, I don't believe this. I don't believe your mother God. And that happened often, but people would just pack their bags and leave. They wouldn't stay and fight every day like I did. They would just pack their bags and leave when they didn't believe anymore. Me, in my case, because I had this relationship with Amy, I'd grown to love her and care about her. I really wanted to snap her out of it. So I didn't just pack up and leave. I began to fight and rail against these delusional belief systems from the inside every single day. And, for instance, like the day Robin Williams showed up for the first time, we were in the middle of a mushroom trip that we did every Friday night like clockwork. And she stood around or sat around in the bed. The whole team's there, sitting against the wall. One of them's taking notes. Amy's sitting on the bed next to me, and she says, wait, there's somebody coming into the field. And by the field, she means her energetic field, like she could read these etheric beings who are coming into the field. She can see them. This is one of her superpowers, that she can see these beings from an astral plane, almost like she can see dead people. And she says there's somebody coming into the field, and it grew very tense, and the anticipation grew. I don't know who it is. And then after a couple of minutes, she goes, but I know who it is. It's Robin Williams. He's my next spirit guide. Robin is here to help guide the team and awaken humanity. And I remember me and a couple team members, nobody said anything out loud. We just kind of exchanged glances with each other like, oh, here we go again. And, that was part of the control system, was that nobody wanted to say anything out loud, even though we all really knew that a lot of this was just, way over the top. And people felt trapped. That was the problem. They had left their lives behind, and just leaving was hard for a lot of people because, one, Amy had done what I call wallet washing to everybody, which is when you join the team, you give up your money, your assets, your finances, you donate it all to the team, and then people are left with nothing to leave with. So then they become stuck in the team. And they are not handing out money for people to leave. Now you're becoming what I call the shame casting. You're evil. You are a possessed being who doesn't believe in God anymore. So they're not going to help you leave. So most of the team members end up stuck. And that's another part of the control system. But yeah, it was definitely difficult to deal with that on a daily basis. And I had to really try to find a balance between serving Amy, who I loved, the person, like a queen, like any human being deserves to be treated by their significant other, while at the same time absolutely eviscerating the persona of Mother God, which wasn't real, every day. And I really found a balance between doing those two things every day. That was my challenge, and I learned a lot and grew a lot because of it.
So, in a sense, you were trying to save her from her own insanity. So, when she labeled you father,
hmm
how did that make you feel?
Oh my God, it was the most intense, gut wrenching moment that I had there. There was no doubt about it. She pulled me aside into the bedroom, and then I had assumed this is a conversation she had a couple times because I was actually Father God number 4 or 5. And yeah, yeah. And I knew that too. I asked her questions, and she starts telling me, like, Andrew, you have she starts out by saying, you have a bigger role here than you think. The reason I told you had to come so fast, drop everything and leave, and is that, humanity needs you. She put that on me. That's part of her control. Humanity needs me. Then she did what I call name casting, as saying you're going to be Father God. She would tell other members you're Horus, give them names like that would make them feel special and important, which would kind of solidify their connection to the belief system. So she name casted me to be Father God. And she told me that this was my destiny. And I told her that this is not what I wanted. I didn't see this coming. And I feel like Andrew. I don't feel like this Father God character. I don't know what that means. What happens to Andrew? Does he disappear? Do I die? Do I get locked in my own body and some other consciousness takes over and I'm just sitting here back in my consciousness, not able to control anything? How does that work? And she says, no, you have nothing to worry about. You're going to integrate. It'll kind of be like half and half, but you'll still be in control, but you'll be Father God. She didn't really have a very good explanation, obviously, because there is no explanation for this, right? So, she kind of just tried to put me at ease with it. And I wasn't really okay, but at the same time, I felt that I was green. I was new. And I had resolved to following her guidance when I first joined because I accepted that she was far more spiritually advanced than I was. And because of my spiritual experiences, I thought, maybe there's more going on here than I know. I'm not going to write anything off at the beginning. I want to see what's possible. Who knows? But maybe I've stumbled upon some rare hidden jewel or artifact that the world doesn't know about. Maybe I do really have a destiny to help bring a really good thing out into the world and to help the world. That was my intention. That is what I wanted to do. And it was to help humanity. And I wasn't going to turn that down if it was possible for me to do it. So I accepted it. It's funny. She finished that conversation, calming me down, telling me it's going to take time. Do your best. I will lead you. The more you get rid of your ego, the more you'll make space for Father God to come in. And she said, I'm going to leave you here to think about it. Just take your time. I'll be outside with the team. She gets to the door and she turns around. She says to me, oh, by the way, when you're ready to make love, let me know. And then closes the door behind her and walks out.
Well, then, maybe that's your ceremony.
And at that point, I was absolutely floored. I was scared. I was terrified. That is not what I wanted. I had no interest in going down that road. And that was the moment when she told me, name casted me to become Father God. And that's what it felt like at first. And I tried for weeks. I tried to do my best to dissolve my ego, to focus on my baggage, to overcome it. She said I was doing a great job, but she had grown impatient over a couple weeks because I hadn't become Father God fast enough. So here comes another mushroom trip. She's guided by her guides to have another mushroom trip and, quote, grease the skids, and that they gave me far more mushrooms than anybody has any right to take. And she thought by doing this, it was going to put me in a position where it would be much easier for this consciousness to download into my body. Made a huge big deal about it, announced it to the world. This was the moment. Father God's coming into the world, and the whole team sitting around in the bedroom once again, and they gave me all these mushrooms. I'm out of it in another world for about a half hour, 45 minutes, and I come to laying on the bed and I'm looking up and she's hovering over me in anticipation, looking at me to see what's coming. And I remember waking up and looking at her and I just started laughing and nobody knew why. And they're looking around at each other and I'm giggling and laughing. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, still Andrew. And it's I didn't know how to break it to anybody. So I kind of just played it off and looked at her and said, wow, you're really powerful. And I thought to myself in that moment, okay, this is all a bunch of BS. And now we have to figure out how we're going to handle the fact that she is not Mother God. All of these titles, this is all BS. We should be focusing on spreading love, helping humanity. Yes, that's great. Awakening, great, perfect, positive, spread the message. But it had slowly devolved into becoming about serving and following Amy. And that was the problem. And that's when things turned dark. But that was the moment when I realized, I was surrounded by delusion.
Well, yeah, I saw some of the other labels she gave out. Either what, you were a whore or you were an Adams or
She would talk about the atoms and meaning like molecules, the atoms. That's what she would talk about. The atoms and the molecules, she thought she controlled all of the atoms of the world, all of the molecules. And she was looking at that level. So when you hear her talking about the atoms, she atoms, not adams, but the actual molecules that she thought she commanded at her will.
very interesting. It
Yeah.
seemed like she had a lot of tactics up her sleeve, like sleep deprivation.
She did.
She would feed you guys drugs. She would seem like she was always drunk or something.
She was from morning till night. I mean, I've even come up with my own list of names of her tactics because I had never seen them named before. So I even came up with my own list of her tactics that she would use against people because her control tactics were extremely refined. She was an intelligent person and she was very refined and very well practiced at these control tactics.
Most of these cult leaders are. It does take a special person to be able to have all these people believe you, want to follow you, and literally go to the end of the earth with you, even though that might be where you're fucking going.
Yeah, no, that. Yeah, and clearly by the end, she got there. She got there. She had a couple forks in the road, and at the end of the day, that's what I was for her. I was a fork in the road, and I offered her a new choice in a new direction, and eventually I had to accept that she didn't want to change. And we can get into that in a little bit if you like. But yeah, that's what I ended up offering her, was a choice to take that other direction. And in the end, she chose the control over truth. She chose the power over love and light. She made a conscious decision to turn dark side. And at that point, I knew that things were going to end up very, very badly. I couldn't imagine that she would end up a mummified corpse wrapped in Christmas lights. Nobody, I think, has a creative enough mind to imagine such a thing. But I knew it was going to end badly. I just had no idea it was going to end so badly.
I think when somebody like that, clearly there's like narcissistic behavior in there.
Oh, yeah.
When you see how much power you have, it's hard to give that up when you are that type of person. So I can see why, like, you're trying to level head with her, and she's probably even believing her own shit at this point.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy, absolutely crazy.
She
How did you try to convince her? You talking about control tactics and everything.
Yeah, sure. So, I became an opportunist when she offered opportunities to show her to herself. She claimed that she had no ego. She claimed that she was perfect and that this was how she was able to be God, right? Because God is perfect, but she is a human being. So anytime that she would really show this imperfection, I would take these opportunities to show her to herself, ask for an explanation, and just, chip away constantly, every day, every time I had an opportunity, chip away. Let's start with the drinking. Every night after dinner, which eventually became an all-day thing, but started with after dinner, she would start drinking. She would drink anywhere from 7 to 10 highball glasses filled with vodka, spritzed with water, and she'd be telling stories all night long. The whole team would sit around the table saying nothing, and she would just talk without taking a breath, telling stories about her life. And she would do what I call past polishing, whereas she would reinvent all of her past experiences and weave in the threads of being Mother God and how all of her past experiences meant she was supposed to be Mother God, like working in McDonald's, this dark, bad corporation, and how she was spreading love and light into the hamburgers. She would tell stories Yeah, past polishing her whole life, top to bottom, all night. And I would stop her and say, hey, look, you're crying or you're upset. Look how angry you are in this moment. You clearly have some unresolved issues and emotions here. You say you're egoless and you're perfect, but that wouldn't be possible if you're sitting here crying to us right now. And I would show her to herself. And, what I would get is, oh, Andrew, you're in your ego. Forget it. You're just an ego. Shut up and sit down. And that would be all she had. Or she would laugh at you. She had this cackle that she wielded like a sword. And she would just laugh and laugh and laugh and look at the other team members to kind of coax them along to laugh with her. And they would just laugh at you until you just shut up and sit down because you didn't want to be laughed at any longer. And that was kind of her defense mechanism, or at least, one of them. And she had another called ether dumping, which is, my favorite name of them. She would blame some of her outbursts on her spirit guides and say, oh, there was Robin Williams talking, not me. When she would, just become nasty and irrational, she would blame it on one of her spirit guides to totally reduce accountability and responsibility for her own actions. I mean, it was a master class in crazy and in manipulation and control.
She lost her calling as like an actor.
She would have been a much better actress than she was a mother god. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, you couldn't have been the only one who saw this.
No. I don't think everybody had the guts to stand up and jump in that fire every day, because it really was like jumping in the fire and being burned alive every day. And in my case, it took some guts, and it just got to a point where I wasn't going to take it anymore. And I was so committed to helping snap her out of it that I didn't care anymore, because I had grown to care about her so much. And I had gotten her to admit she wasn't Mother God on several occasions. I had gotten her to begin to see the cracks forming. She actually, after I left the cult, she followed me 3 weeks later and left the cult behind and came and joined me across the country. Many people don't know this, but yeah, she left the cult behind at one time and was done. And she wasn't for 2 months that she had joined me in Florida after she left the team behind in California that I realized she was just telling me what I wanted to hear when I told her she couldn't come unless she left it all behind. She was just used to having me around. I served her like a queen, and nobody else was supporting her to such an extent and so vigorously, staying up with her till 6, 7 o'clock in the morning while she drank herself into oblivion every night. And I think that she wanted that. I think she realized that somebody actually truly cared about Amy, not just Mother God. And I couldn't stay forever. I wanted to take my life in a new direction, but there were times where it came close to her breaking her through, and it was Michael, who you saw in the documentary, who would constantly reel her back into this Mother God delusion. Just like when I walked in the house and he was holding her up in the chair so Mother God wouldn't fall out. That was a really interesting visual, because he, over time, would become the man who was holding Mother God in her seat, keeping her from falling out, keeping her from snapping out of the delusion. It was Michael who constantly reeled her back in. And it's funny enough that it was Michael who ended up leaving with all of the money, all of the bank accounts.
Oh, that sounds about right. I was just, as you were saying all this, I was like, I bet Michael ended up getting something pretty good out of it, because she's no longer with us. Where is she?
No, she might be here. I don't know. Sorry. Michael, we always saw it coming. His name was on anything that was legal facing, whether it was the website names, the bank accounts, the credit cards, the rent agreements. It was always in Michael's name. He was the legal facing member of the team and who Mother God trusted the most besides me. He had been with her the longest, even more than me. And we all knew that it would one day Michael would walk away with all of the money. We just didn't know that it would become Amy passing away And then him doing that, we figured he'd just leave earlier. But when she withered away slowly over the course of a couple years and died, and Michael, of all people who had been with her for over a decade, didn't get her medical attention, that told us everything we need to know. If anybody should be in prison, it is him.
Right, right. So was she really paralyzed?
From what I hear, yes. I wasn't there at the end, but from what I hear, that wasn't fake. You know, the whole stage 5 cancer thing was she never had cancer. There is no stage 5 cancer. But I don't think she knew that, obviously. But she always has to one up everything. But yeah, the paralyzation and the loss of being able to move was real. You could even see her legs, how skinny they got. There was almost no muscle left.
Were you ever present when she did these brain surgeries?
Oh, sure. Many of them. Yeah. Yeah. She sometimes, even when I first got there, she would do these spiritual healings and make me go forehead to forehead with her as if she was our energies together were giving her the power to do these spiritual healings for people. And those were in my early days, the first few weeks or months that I had joined. Eventually, she just did them on her own after I had started to wake up and, rail against the whole mother god delusion. But yeah, I was there for many of them. She would just tell people that she was giving them brain surgery, that she was removing microchips from their brains on the etheric level. And people would get better about something. Maybe somebody had an issue and suddenly it got better. And they would always come back to Mother God and write her a letter saying, oh, it was because of your surgery that I got better. And, this would feed her ego and convince her that her brain surgeries were actually working. At one point, she was even convinced that she cured somebody of cancer. And that's why she was telling people to drink colloidal silver. It'll cure you of cancer. Meanwhile, it had turned her absolutely blue and is one of the reasons that she died. Was because of how much of this colloidal silver she was ingesting. I guess after I left, there were no more Andrews or nobody left who really cared about her enough to stand up and say, look, something isn't right here. She just went down that road at a super fast pace, and we all know how it ended, unfortunately.
I do not know how it all ended. I didn't get that. So part of her death was drinking the silver
So
stuff?
yeah. She drank colloidal silver every day, thinking that was some magic cure to everything that ailed her. It was turning her skin blue. It was poisoning her because she was drinking so much of it. She had, the coroner reported, liver failure and total organ failure, actually, starting with the liver because of her alcoholism. She drank more than I've ever seen every single night. I became a babysitter for her every night that she started drinking. I'd hand her first drink and say, goodbye, love, I'll see you tomorrow, because she would turn into another person altogether. And between the drinking and the colloidal silver and just being in ill health, those things all together led to her, her body just giving out on her. And she never did get any medical attention. And, what's interesting enough is two of the girls, Aurora and Hope, bragged about this on a YouTube video that in the end, Amy had gotten to a point where she said to them, what if I'm crazy? What if I just made all this up and I'm not really Mother God and none of this is real and I just made it all up? And they told her, no, you are Mother God. Don't believe that. That's crazy. You can't let those thoughts get into your mind. And Amy said to them, well, tell you the truth, I'd really like to go see a doctor and see if I can't get some help. And they told her, no, you can't go see a doctor because just like you taught us, those doctors, the cabal, will make sure that they kill you when you're in the hospital. So we can't risk it. We're not going to take you to a doctor. So they denied her medical care when she asked for it. And because of that, her own teachings came back to bite her in the end. And she ended up passing away. And that happened, I believe, in California, if I'm not mistaken. And they transported her body across several states in a sleeping bag, even got pulled over and told the police it was just somebody sleeping in the back. And set her up, set her up as a shrine in the bedroom, decorated with Christmas lights and incense, had children living in the home, and this bedroom was set up like a shrine. Absolutely incredible, mind-blowing. I couldn't believe how sick it had become. But that is essentially how she passed. And the Michael, of all people, he's very smart, saw all of this coming. So he got out in front of it and went to the sheriff's office and reported it to the sheriff and said, I think there's a body in this house. And I think, you should go take a look. So he got out in front of it. The sheriff's office raided the house, found the body, arrested the 7 members there, who later had all charges dropped. For what reason, I don't know. They were all arrested for abuse of a corpse and neglecting a child, or child neglect. And they all had the charges dropped, and Michael made off with, as far as I know, at least $400,000 in money, and we'll probably never see Michael again. If I know him, he's in Costa Rica or Mexico somewhere, hiding, living the life with the cash he has.
That's insane. So Hope and Aurora are the ones that took her body and then made her a Christmas tree. Them two were so brainwashed. Like, watching them hurt, like, my heart. Because, like, they're like, she has saved my life. She's made me into this wonderful person. Like, honey, you need to wake up. It's absolutely insane. And I'm kind of surprised that nobody said, well, when she passed, now I'm the new mother god.
Yeah,
because that kind of shit happens too.
it does.
To where, okay, well, we need a new one.
It's funny. I get these emails from an ex-member who had lost her mind, who emails everybody that she has an email for from the team, and she claims she was the real mother god the whole time. She used to fight with Amy. I'm mother god, not you. And once in a while, every couple weeks, I receive this email about this girl, and she's always fighting, claiming she is the real mother god. So on that note, there actually is at least one person claiming to be the real mother god. But in Aurora and Hope's case, is really a shame. Both girls are very pretty, but at the same time, just as pretty as they are, what I get from them is their souls have turned as ugly and dark as sackcloth. I mean, I am shocked at the words that I hear come from their mouths. The fact that they got on a live stream and bragged about denying Amy Carlson medical care when she asked for it, and it was clear that she needed it. And these girls actually got on their live stream and bragged about it, and bragged about stopping her from believing that maybe she wasn't mother god in the first place, and maybe helping her to get some help, and hopefully avoiding everything that happened. I don't know what's up with those 2 girls. I don't know them personally very well. I have had one run-in with them one time, which was nothing really to write home about, but they seem to still be believing. They still seem to be carrying the torch for Amy forward. They took all her notebooks that Amy would keep, and they, made a book out of them, trying to cash in on all of the notes that Amy took. I don't know how well it did or whatnot, and they're still selling stuff on their website. But those 2 girls are, unfortunately, as lost as anybody could be. You would think after all this they'd wake up, but apparently not.
They seem very, very lost. And you would think that since now they have video proof of them saying they're refusing to get her help, that would hold up in court.
You would think. I'm generally close with Amy's family. Mind-boggling to all of us. We don't understand. With the charges that were dropped for all 7 members of the team, don't understand what happened there. Why the FBI or a federal agency didn't get involved, especially considering the corpse was taken across state lines, which immediately becomes a federal issue. We don't understand why this was allowed to happen and nobody was held to account, especially when we have proof of them in their own words denying her medical care when she asked for it clearly in a place where she wasn't able to get it for herself because she couldn't walk. And these people denied her medical care. How that didn't get prosecuted is beyond us. I hope one day that maybe they will be. At the very least, I believe in karma, and I wouldn't wish that level of karma on anybody, but they will get what they deserve. I believe that fully in my heart.
I was going to say that a little earlier and be like, karma is a bitch.
It is. It is. When she comes for you, she comes hard. So I wouldn't want to be in their place when she does come. So, I wish them the best. I don't wish bad things for anybody in this world. But at the same time, whatever it takes, sometimes it takes something like that to snap people out of a dark place that they're in. And they surely are in a very, very dark place.
So when you left, you had a little bit of time to do whatever it is that you were searching for, probably trying to get your life back together.
Sure.
And then she said she thought she'd come and join you. How long did that last?
A couple of months. It was crazy. What happened was she had a member join after we had a quantum hoax happen where a team member pretended to be these fake intelligent beings from another universe that came into our chat. Huge, elaborate deception I wrote about in my book, The War on Love, where he essentially used all these computer programs to pretend to be these beings who took control over the team to elevate this one team member's status. Nobody was the wiser. Elevated his status in the group into mine and Amy's relationship to get Amy alone in these healing sessions where he took advantage of her while she was drunk and had sexual relations with her by convincing her that he was Father God. In those moments, at least. After that happened, I began railing against the team so hard because I uncovered the hoax. I had all the proof. Amy's guides who said these beings were real obviously were wrong because it was just somebody in the corner of our house. And I was given an ultimatum to keep my mouth shut or leave the team, that I couldn't tell the truth. And that was the moment where I realized they were choosing darkness, deceit, and lies, betrayal over this message of love, light, growth, truth, awakening. And that was a moment where I really became a thorn in their side. And obviously, I couldn't be Father God anymore. I was no longer eligible to be Father God at that point. So they found this other member came in. His name was Bill. He was about 55 years old. He joined the team after being with us in the chat room for a little while, and he came into the team. Amy told him he was going to be Father God. And she comes up to me one day and says, Andrew, I've got great news. Her and Bill are both beaming. She says, you and I and Bill, we're going to take a car trip. We're going to go to Oregon or to Washington State, to Everett, to Bill's house. He's going to sell his house and liquidate his 401k and donate all of the money to love. And I thought, oh my God, no way, at 55 years old, no. So I took every opportunity I had to pull this man aside and tell him everything I knew to stop him from doing this. But it was like talking to the happiest brick wall in all of creation. And I couldn't do anything to stop it. So he ended up, long story short, liquidating his 401k, selling his house, calling the bank, having them come up with $100 bills in a black duffel bag. I mean, talk about red flags. And went and picked it up, 400 and some odd $1,000 in $100 bills, and literally just handed his life's wealth over to Amy and said, Mother, I give this to you. She told him this was how he dissolved his ego enough to become Father God. I call this wallet washing, as I mentioned before. She totally washed his wallet out. This was how he, and also was name casted as Father God, and had nothing left. She took this money about 3 weeks after. And when he became Father God, she felt she was Mother God. She was all over him. They disappeared one night, and I'm in a relationship with them. They disappeared one night, got a hotel room, came back the next day. I'm sitting some nights while she's drunk, watching her snuggling up into his lap. Meanwhile, we're still together. And that was the last straw that broke the camel's back. I decided to leave. So I left in love. nicely, hugged everybody goodbye. Couple weeks later, I get the message from Amy, I'm coming to join you. I feel pulled in that direction, gonna leave this all behind. Well, she took all of Bill's money with her. She showed up with a purse full of, I met them halfway. Her purse had a t-shirt over it. Underneath it was $100 bills. I mean, bursting with hundreds. She probably had $50 or $60,000 in cash in this purse. And when she got to Florida with me, she asked me for my bank account credentials so Michael could wire money. He wired money to my bank account. I didn't want her to come, long story short. I didn't want to go backwards, but she convinced me. I was rebuilding my life, and she really made it hard to say no. Nevertheless, she came and joined me with all of Bill's money. I couldn't believe. And that lasted about 2 months. She pretended like she was leaving it behind. We were going to start building a real life together. I thought she'd reconnect with her family, with her children. I had really high hopes for finally I had snapped her out of this. Finally I was getting her to move beyond this mother God persona. And I realized she was giving me lip service the whole time because she let it slip that she had been still talking to Michael. And I saw that she had a conversation with him. And nevertheless, I decided to break things off with her. It lasted about 2 months. So our time together, if you add it all together, was about a year in total. And she left that gentleman behind. And it was so sad because he had nothing left to go back to. And I found out that just a couple years later, he was in great shape, as best shape you'd ever see. A 55-year-old man died suddenly in his sleep, unexpectedly, completely healthy. Nobody saw it coming. It's like he just gave up on life and passed away. Really,
that's so sad.
really sad story. Yeah, she completely ruined his life. That's another story that I get into more deep in the book, The War on Love. I did everything I could to try to help him in that situation. And yeah, she took all his money and showed up in Florida and was ready to live it up with this other guy's money. It was so strange. It was a strange place for me to be in. And I didn't know what to do. It was great on one hand and really sad. And the whole experience itself was just something else entirely.
A mind fuck.
Yeah. That's the best way to put it. No doubt. It was a complete mind fuck any way you look at it. Yeah. I wouldn't change it for the world because I had grown so much and there was so much to learn from. It wasn't until I wrote my book that I really processed everything. Even 10 years later, there was so much left for me to process. It was so hard to write that book because I realized how many emotions that I hadn't dealt with. I began writing it while I was taking chemo and fighting cancer in the hospital. And that's when I realized how much from this situation 10 years later, I still had left to overcome. And that's probably why you find so few cult survivors willing to speak up and tell their truth, share their story out of embarrassment, out of the intensity of emotion that they feel, and maybe in an inability to get past what they've experienced. Because it really is a mindfuck.
Well, yeah, it's hard to say, yeah, I believe that this person was going to do this, and this, and then I was going to be able to do crazy shit. And I mean, some people are very convincing, I guess. I don't know. But I mean, I'm glad that you're in a better space. And honestly, you shouldn't be that hard on yourself because in a sense, you knew the whole time she was crazy. So I feel like you weren't in hook, line, and sinker. It just, you cared about that person that you thought that she could be.
Yeah.
And so you need to recognize that.
Well, I appreciate that. If you see the cover of my book, the cover of my book is a portrait of Amy split in two. And half is her face beautiful. And the other half, there's a split down the middle. And the other half is the mother God. So half the face is Amy. The other half is mother God, which looks, spiritual, but wrinkled and fading, and decaying. And that's the dichotomy. That's what the image is portraying is the difference between, the potential of who Amy was versus who Mother God was. And my intention for the book, if I may, is really, while it's not just, a story about cults, it's bigger than that. It's about being manipulated It's a story about losing yourself. And this is something that I think everybody can really align with in a sense, whether it be in a relationship, a job, or some kind of environment where you felt you weren't being your complete authentic self. And I really wrote the book in a way in with the intentions that other people would be able to see that, if I can find my truth, my authenticity, my power to overcome these challenges, that, they can do the same in these own situations for themselves.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much because we're human,
Sure.
most of us,
Yeah,
you know. So
supposedly, yes.
so you're gonna find yourself in these times where you aren't yourself, where you feel like you have to portray to be somebody else to fit in or to be safe, or there's so many different circumstances people find themselves in. So I think it doesn't matter
Right.
if you were in a cult or not. It would resonate with everybody
Yeah.
because we've all been through some shit. It's just different levels.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. The book is essentially a chronological record of my experience, and I tried to tell it complete fact-based through my eyes and what I experienced. But yeah, I hope people can see themselves in it in a way that, empowers them, inspires them to find their authenticity, which is a favorite word of mine, their power, their truth, and to begin living that and to be the best version of themselves possible.
Absolutely. That's what I strive for almost on every podcast episode that I do.
Oh, that's
Because,
beautiful.
I mean, we are always on a journey. Like, you're never complete. Tomorrow, you're going to try to be one step better than you were today, and
Okay.
so on and so on. We all got to own our shit
Yeah.
and work through it.
That's where it starts. Yeah, that's where it starts, is owning it for sure. My fire and rise method that I use for my own self and getting through my own challenges, that's where it starts, is recognizing your own shit and owning it. That's where it begins. Again, authenticity is the key.
Absolutely. Proud of you. I think
Mm.
you are doing amazing things. You're trying to help other people. Like, what would you say to somebody who is searching for something that's bigger than themselves? What kind of warning could you give people now that you know what kind of dark side they can fall into?
Yeah, well, when it comes to a warning, I would say, first off, there is no bad. And this is something I learned through cancer, and there's no mistakes. Even cancer, I can't define it as bad, because if I define cancer as bad, then that means that there's nothing good for me to take from it. It was just an experience. And first of all, don't paint yourself into that corner. That would be my first warning. Don't look at your experiences as just bad or just mistakes. Look at them as opportunities to learn and to grow. First of all, another warning would be always look for meaning, to look for purpose. Don't doubt yourself and trust your intuition. Listen to your gut. Your intuition, I don't know, I can't explain it, but it works on another level that we don't exist on. It works. Your intuition knows things, and it will lead you the right way. Pay it attention. I would say listen to your gut for sure. And be real, be authentic. Learn to have dispassionate conversations with yourself. I once heard, I don't know the exact quote, but they said, an intelligent mind can consider an idea even if you don't agree with it. It can still consider the idea. And that becomes really important, is to dispassionately be able to look at something and really consider all angles and all sides and take it in. We've all been in situations where we've felt like, maybe not a cult, where we felt trapped or stuck. And the way out is by being, again, authentic with ourselves, and by looking at it, by taking it in, and really just understanding who we want to be and figuring out what steps we need to take to move in that direction to be that person. And don't look at the whole scenario at once, because that can be overwhelming. Just focus on taking one good step in that direction every day, and eventually it will add up.
Right. And don't be willing to like give 100% of yourself to someone else.
Yeah, well, that's an important point too. Yes.
Whereas, like, look inside first, and then you can work with people, but don't work for them and become just a pawn in their game.
That's an important distinction. Yeah.
It's hard to read people when you're searching so hard, even to find who you are. So I think people really need to pause. And like you said, your gut, like you knew you were there 5 minutes and you're like, what the hell did I do?
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah. I knew right away. And maybe that's part of the reason why I didn't really lose myself completely. It's funny when I was going to step on the plane to go from Tennessee to Denver, literally as my foot hovered over the tarmac to step onto the plane, the first step, a thought popped in my head that said, you're being sent to a really dark place to turn on the light. And it was strange. And that's your intuition right there, trying to prepare you. And I totally forgot about that. I pushed it out of my mind because that was the last thing I wanted to hear while I was leaving my life behind to go join this team. But, fast forward several months, turn around and look at that moment. And it became really like a watershed, intuitive moment that prepared me for what I was about to find myself in.
That literally just gave me goosebumps. When you were saying that you're going to a dark place to find light, like all of a sudden I just felt my whole body go into goosebumps.
There you go. I mean, look, our bodies, our intuitions. There's definitely a magical edge, purpose, or theme undercurrent to this life that we don't get taught about in school, that maybe a lot of people don't realize in their lives. But there definitely is something else there, and that's what I was seeking to find and to understand. I can't claim that I completely understand it. I do know that there's more to this life than we realize, and I thought I would find that with the team. To an extent I did, just not in the ways that they intended to teach me. But I'm grateful for it nonetheless. It was an extreme learning experience. And I would also say to people, don't be afraid to take risks. Be smart about it. Be conscious about what you're doing. Weigh out all the potentials. But, don't be afraid to take some small risks with your life and jump once in a while, because at worst, you lose and you learn. And at best, you win and you're happy.
I mean, by not even trying, you're already losing. So
no doubt.
You think of it that way.
Doing nothing is the worst case scenario, no doubt about it. In the end, what I ask myself is, did I choose to help? Did I intend to serve others? Did I intend to make the world better? Those are the questions I ask myself. And if the answer to those is yes, then, I sleep well at night. And that's what matters to me now.
I think this can reach a lot of people who can understand. And there's so many cults out there. I mean, so many. And a lot of people do leave and they're looking for answers on how the hell did I get here? And so I think this can touch so many people. Your book is out and published now, right?
It is. And that's my hope. My hope is that by speaking out that I can help inspire and show other people that they don't have to be afraid to speak out and to let their voice be heard about their experience. My book is called The War on Love. It's the origin story of Love Has Won and the rise of Mother God. You'll find it at thewaronlove.com. That is my website. And we're also on Amazon. And I also started a website called cultinsider.com, where I post cult-related articles every day and stay current with events. And I hope that one day we'll be able to grow enough to create resources for cult survivors, whether it be, people with saving dogs and cats and animals. They can set up like shuttles to pick them up one place, and then, it's almost like underground railroad. I want to set one of those up for cult survivors, for people that feel stuck, and hopefully get them out. I have great intentions of being able to help cult survivors one day through that website. You got to start somewhere, and like I said, one step at a time, and that's what we're doing here with The War on Love. I would love it if your readers think it's worth it. Please give it a read. You'll find it on Amazon or my website, thewaronlove.com. Give it a review on Amazon if you like it, and support us. And thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm going to have all the links in the show notes, so it's easy to find. You have no excuse, people.
No excuse. No.
Was there anything that you wanted to cover that we did not? Anything you wanted to add?
I think we really covered a lot of it. I do. What I do want people to take away is that we all want something to believe in, and sometimes we can give that power away and it can destroy us, whether it's a relationship, a belief system, or a cult. And it is our responsibility, as you said, to own our life. And you don't have to be perfect to be free. You just have to take that first step in honesty and authenticity. That's where it matters. Start with authenticity and keep it real, and the rest will fall in line. I promise. That's what I've learned. That's my truth. And I leave it there.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Good. I enjoyed talking to you too. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to follow, rate, and review. It helps more survivors find our community. Do you want to be part of the conversation and share your story? Visit truecrimeconnections.com. Until next time, be safe, be seen, and never forget, your story has power.